After a year without any updates, Tesla has actually released their accidents per mile for both their fleet overall and for Teslas using Autopilot software, and it's a major milestone and indicates that the August 8th Cybercab announcement might be more significant than we think. Plus, Tesla released a really cool video a couple of days ago asking you to get out and vote your shares, and you should. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All coming to you early on a Thursday morning. I want to talk about the new safety data that came out from Tesla and how significant it is and why I think that next quarter is going to be even more interesting, assuming we get an update, because there was a long period of time where we didn't get an update. I believe it was actually quarter one of 2023 to quarter one of 2024. So hopefully we will see quarter two of 2024, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But first, I want to show this quick video here underneath as I'm talking. This is where yesterday's video, if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out, about the Cybercab comes in. There's a few screenshots, a couple of short clips of videos, things like that are really interesting. But this is a specific request from Tesla for everyone who is a shareholder to please go out and vote. This is actually a very important vote. The two important things, if you don't know, are Elon Musk's compensation package, which was, determined to be invalid in the court of Delaware. There's a big long story about that. If you're a shareholder, you probably already know about that. And then the other one is moving incorporation from Delaware to Texas. The incorporation in Texas is going to be a significant challenge, and it sounds like it might not pass. There's a likelihood that it won't pass because any votes that are not cast count as no votes. So if only 75% of shareholders actually vote, then 25% just from the get-go count as no's. So that's not a particularly good way to go with that. So hopefully people will get out and vote. That's why it's very important. Elon's compensation package as well is very important because if it's re-ratified, I believe even if Tesla is still incorporated in Delaware, that would allow him to get paid for work that he's done since 2018, which is 6 years basically. He has not been compensated because the compensation package, which admittedly was huge, but also, Tesla had to hit ridiculous milestones in order to get there. So basically that package, it was rejected by the courts in Delaware, by a particular judge in Delaware. I won't go into the details, but if this is approved by the shareholders in the meeting on June 13th, then it should overturn that decision. I believe, I don't know that it necessarily will, but I think that it will take precedence. I don't know exactly what all the legal stuff is, but basically the argument was that there wasn't enough clarity in the original package information, even though 73% of people who voted in favor of the compensation package, that somehow we weren't well enough informed, and so we didn't vote properly. Yeah, so here we go. VoteTesla.com. Go there. If you're having problems with your brokerage, you should definitely talk to your brokerage about that. Apparently, exceptions are being made. It sounds like Europe is particularly difficult about getting brokerages to agree to allow you to vote, but that they actually have been changing their minds and allowing people to vote on this. So it's very important. Make sure that you ask and put a little pressure on your brokerage if they don't do it automatically. I have E-Trade. They sent me an email. I clicked the link. I voted it, and my wife did that as well. It took, all of 2 minutes to do all of that kind of stuff. So it was very easy. I didn't realize how difficult it was for some people. Anyway, onward from that, let's talk about the vehicle safety report. I'm going to read just this one paragraph here. You can see the rest. And again, like I said, I'll leave a link in the description. I always try to do that for my sources. Anyway, it says, while no car can prevent all accidents, and indeed that is true. So if you expect a car to ever drive without any accidents, it's never going to happen. The world is just too crazy of a place. But what we want to do is get 99.999 and get as many nines after that, so as few accidents happen as possible. There will always be accidents. A tree can fall on the car as it's driving. There's nothing a car can do. That's just the way it goes. So anyway, while no car can prevent all accidents, we work every day to try to make them much less likely to occur. Active safety features come standard on all Tesla vehicles made after September 2014 for an additional layer of safety beyond the physical structure of each car. We'll take a look at that in the graph below. Because every Tesla is connected, we're able to use the billions of miles of real-world data from our global fleet, of which more than 9 billion have been driven with Autopilot engaged. That is a crazy number right there. That's with Autopilot. That's not full self-driving necessarily, but that's with advanced features like traffic-aware cruise control all the way up to full self-driving. Anyway, to understand the different ways accidents happen, we then develop features that can help Tesla Tesla drivers mitigate or avoid accidents. Through over-the-air software updates, which is also pretty unique to Tesla, we're able to introduce safety features and enhancements long after a car has been delivered, as well as release updated versions of existing safety features that take into account the most up-to-date real-world data collected by our fleet. And so that takes us to this chart. I'm showing this in very, very small form. I'll blow it up in just a second, but I wanted to show the trend over time. This is 2018 down here at the bottom, right? So if you look at this over time, you can see the dark blue line is with Autopilot features engaged. This is lumpy. Part of it is seasonality. Part of it also is the sparsity of data. But you can see that over time, this dark blue line has gotten bigger and bigger. It was kind of flat over last year, and then it went up very, very significantly in Q1 of 2024. And the dark blue line, of course, is with Autopilot or full self-driving engaged. The light blue line is without that, so a person driving a Tesla, but just driving it manually. And then the gray line is average number of miles driven per accident for US fleet driving. So that's just everybody driving a Toyota Camry, a RAV4, or whatever, whatever kind of vehicle. So anyway, that is on the order of 670,000 miles per accident as the US average fleet. You can see that always Teslas are safer, even if people are driving them manually, potentially partially because Tesla drivers are safer. I don't know that that's true, but also Tesla does have mitigating factors involved. Even if you're driving manually, the car can try to take over and avoid some accidents if they happen. So that probably explains a lot of the difference between manual driving with a Tesla and fleet data overall. All right, so let's go down below the figure and explore the last 2 quarters in a little bit of detail. You can see Q4 of 2023, we recorded 1 crash for every 5.39 million miles driven in which drivers were using Autopilot technology. And then you can see in the first quarter of 2024, we recorded 1 crash for every 7.63 million miles driven in which drivers were using Autopilot technology. So you can obviously see that 7.63 million is quite a bit more than 5.39. I'll talk about that more in just a second. But the big thing here is 7.63 million over 670,000 miles is about 11.4. That's 11.4 times safer. So it would mean that you would be able to drive about 11 times more miles. So let's say that you drove 10,000 miles before you had an accident. That would mean that you would drive about 110,000 miles before you had an accident personally, right? Just again, this is all statistical data. You could go out tomorrow and get in an accident. That would suck. But I'm just saying that statistically, overall, you would go from driving, say, 10,000 miles before an accident to 110,000 miles. That is an absolutely huge difference. An order of magnitude is a really, really big number. And of course, looking at this figure, you can see just how big it is. I mean, this versus this, it's a gigantic difference between these two. Now, why is 11 such a big number? 11 crosses a threshold of 1 order of magnitude. It's larger than 10. And 10x is what a lot of people have been talking about in terms of safety measurements for Tesla to be able to approach regulatory bodies like NHTSA and say, hey, this car is demonstrably safer than a standard vehicle, and therefore we should get regulatory approval to be able to operate this vehicle in a fully autonomous fashion rather than having to use it in an L2, L2.5 sort of fashion where, you have to constantly jiggle the steering wheel, you have to make sure that you're looking all the time, all of that kind of stuff. This is the threshold, and Elon Musk has even talked about this. He's mentioned that when Tesla's full self-driving gets to 10 times safer than the average fleet, that's the time you can really approach regulators and you can ask them to allow autonomous driving, fully autonomous driving, in at least some situations. So that's the milestone I'm talking about. That 10x is an absolutely huge milestone. And getting to 11 times the standard fleet miles per accident is that milestone. That is absolutely huge. Now, why is this so lumpy? There's a couple of reasons. Number one is a little bit seasonality. If you kind of look at Q4 of each year, that is generally going to be the worst, in terms of miles per accident driven, because that's the holidays. It's when the days are getting shorter. People tend to get tired. Weather gets kind of bad. In terms of the best quarters, usually that looks to be Q2 or Q3. Those are summer months in the Northern Hemisphere. Those tend to be times where the driving is relatively easy, less snow, less inclement weather in general. Again, this is all statistics and stuff. You can obviously have a tornado roll through and have bad things happen. But just statistically, you have more accidents in Q4 than you do in Q2 or Q3. Q1 is one of those in-between sort of things because you have bad weather in the Northern Hemisphere. But also, I think people tend to be a little bit more chill than they were back in the fourth quarter. So in general, you can see quarter one is generally a better quarter than quarter four, and quarter two and quarter three are generally the best. So the hope would be that we would see quarter two results in another 2 or 3 months from this year in 2024, and that this 7.39 million would actually go up to some extent, and it might be over 8 or something like that. The other reason this is lumpy is there are not very many accidents with these Teslas, right? They're driving hundreds of millions of miles per quarter, but you don't have that many accidents considering that you've got millions of miles per accident. And so 1 or 2 more accidents in a particular quarter, which just randomly can happen, can make the figures look like the miles per accident is significantly lower. And then if you have a couple of less, it can make it look higher. So it's going to be lumpy, but the general trend line, of course, over time is that this number has gone up and up and up and up and up. So yes, while we can't count on this, and next quarter it might go down to 6.5 million or something. So it's not monotonic, but in general, this has been a trending upward line, and that is all to the best. And then a couple of other interesting points here. Number one, quarter one of 2024, I went back and checked to make sure, but basically that was all on Full Self-Driving 11. Full Self-Driving 12 had not been released at this point, except to just a very, very few people back in March. Number two, the free trial of Full Self-Driving 12 had not been released yet, so there had not been that explosion of people driving on Full Self-Driving. So quarter two figures are going to be very interesting. And of course, in a couple of months, I really look forward to this updated chart to see what quarter two of 2024 is. We're still in quarter two, so we don't have the results yet, obviously. But if this number actually trends up with Full Self-Driving 12, and more importantly, with a huge new group of people using Full Self-Driving because of the free trial, if this number actually goes up instead of going down, my projection is it's probably going to go down. It'll probably go back to like 5 million, 6 million, something like that, because so many more people, so many new people were using it. The odds are that we're probably going to get a few more accidents. But if this number actually goes up in quarter two, that is going to be the nail in the coffin. That's the wrong metaphor to use. But that'll basically prove out the fact that Full Self-Driving 12 is incredibly safe and that regulators need to pay very close attention to this. Interestingly enough, of course, the quarter ends at the end of June, so Tesla should have this data by, let's say, mid-July, and that is conveniently a few weeks before the August 8th Cybercab reveal. So they should have this information. They could potentially go to regulators with that information. They could go to them with live data at this point, right? They could say, the first couple of quarters, we did the free trial in April. This is what we got. These are the statistics. They probably already know this. They only tell us every quarter, but they know per month. They know real time, basically. Sounds like they have a dashboard that's just constantly alerting them to anything that's going on with the fleet. So they probably know this data in real time. And if this metric is actually going up instead of down right now with way more people using it, that means that version 12 of the software, as has been proven out, I mean, it's definitely safer anecdotally and from everybody that I've talked to, looking online, watching videos, all of that kind of stuff. If Full Self-Driving 12 is that much safer and we can see another significant jump, and Tesla already has insight into this, then we're really, really looking at a situation where they should be able to argue that this software should be allowed to operate in autonomous mode, perhaps in San Francisco because it's very friendly, perhaps in Austin because they're friendly, perhaps in Arizona because they're very friendly to full self-driving. So, perhaps in Arizona because they're also very friendly to autonomous driving. So they should be able to apply if they've got data that proves out that version 12 of the software is as safe as or safer than this. So that 10x milestone is an absolutely huge milestone, which is why I wanted to do this video. Now, of course, you can argue that this is full self-driving or autopilot plus human, and that is very true. So there might be a situation where you would have a safety critical intervention and the person intervened and saved a potential accident. Absolutely, that could happen. So that means we don't have perfect data right now for full self-driving accidents, right? We've got full self-driving plus human in the loop miles per accident. That's the metric that we have. That's what this shows us. And if there's a critical intervention, the human can intervene and save the accident from happening. But also, let's not forget that while this stuff is engaged, it is quite possible that you also have a human who might have been distracted and have gotten into an accident, and that accident was saved from the fact that they were on autopilot or full self-driving. So there is some mixture of those two things. And with full self-driving 12, not just me, but many, many people, pretty much everybody I've talked to, says that the number of critical interventions has just plummeted. That you know, I take over all the time because I'm like, I want to drive faster, or I want to get in this lane, or whatever. You know, I do those kinds of things, but that's just convenience interventions. That's just me deciding I want to do it, not going like, holy crap, the car is about to get into an accident, I need to take over. Those kinds of interventions are very, very few and far between for me and for pretty much everybody I've talked to. And furthermore, like I said, Tesla actually apparently has a real-time dashboard where they're able to see safety critical interventions, and they know which ones are safety critical versus us just being, you know, jerky human drivers deciding that we want to drive instead of the vehicle. They know those things. So they actually have a window into that, and they can pull that data in immediately and retrain the network for the next version of the software. And again, let's not forget that Elon said that 12.4 of the software that is rolling out right now, somewhere around right now, I think it's out to employees at the moment, and will probably go to Homars and some other people very, very soon. But anyway, that version of the software is somewhere between 5 and 10 times safer than what we have currently. So if that is true, then this dark blue line could actually start increasing radically. We could be looking at, instead of 7 million miles, we could be looking at, you know, 50 or 60 or 70 million miles. That's going to make these bars look like rounding errors down there. It'll be very difficult to even see them because this graph will be so big. So if we start getting into that range, we're going to be getting into the not just 10x safer, but 100x safer. And when you start looking at that many orders of magnitude safer, then NHTSA and other regulatory bodies would be complete fools not to allow Tesla to press forward with this technology, because it's life-saving technology. So in the end, this is an amazingly important data point. Getting over that 10x milestone is huge, but Q2 is going to be even more important because of the free trial and version 12 of the software. If we see this number get bigger instead of smaller in Q2, that is a very, very significant moment. And that would make me pretty confident that before the end of the year, we'll see Cybercab rides somewhere in the United States. That would be very, very exciting. So an amazing milestone. Congratulations to Tesla's AI and full self-driving team. And don't forget to go out and vote your Tesla shares. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.